Yeah.
We were talking about, I mean, there's a lot of talk about peaceful child and all, but you are very clear that not having a child-centered home is important. And that the children do like structure and so forth. So I think that's interesting because it's not just peaceful, or these other aspects that are important as well. And not being child-centered is important as well.
I think that leads to a more peaceful environment, really. Yeah, when it's a child-centered home, the child's in control. And that's never a good thing because, yeah, the child doesn't have life experience and the child wants structure, the child wants to be guided, and, you know, it relies on the parents for that. So I think that's really important. The kids that you see out there that are all about me and you know, they come from child-centered homes. I don't know what else to say about that. It just,
No, I get it. Well, and what about some of the natural influences? I mean, you speak about this in your book, and TV, video games. I mean, obviously we're in a time and space that kids are drawn to that because it's so prevalent. You know, video games, computer. You know, when a kid winds up going out into the world, I mean, I remember with my kids, you know, they come home, and no matter what you do at home, it's like there's the peer stuff.
Right, sure.
Whether it's food or TV or games. So how would you suggest dealing with that?
I would suggest that parents talk to other parents first. And, you know, understand what these things are doing to them. It's all the video games that are making it cool to kill. That's I think really dangerous. They're becoming immune to violence, and it's becoming a natural thing in their life. Yeah, it really has to come from the parents. The parents have to discuss with their kids what this does to them, and that it's not real, and it doesn't serve anyone to be violent. And there's lots of video games that aren't violent, that are fun. That's what parents need to focus on. And just finding out what those are and showing that to the kids instead is what needs to happen. But yeah, as far as the peer pressure, the parents got to talk to each other. It's as simple as that. And
meaning, how would that happen?
And you could go to school, have a PTA, you know, go to the PTA meeting, talk to all the parents at once, and just have a heart-to-heart, you know. And I think a lot of parents would agree if you just laid it out on the table and said, look, you know, this is what this is doing to our kids. They're growing up thinking it's cool to kill people and cool to, you know, run people over or whatever. They're, you know, blowing up spaceships, whatever they're doing. I don't even know what they're doing nowadays, to be honest, but I know they're still really violent. And they're more and more graphic. It's more and more realistic. I do know that.
Yeah.
But then they have the dance games, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're not killing anyone. And the kids love that just as much. It's like dance or something. I don't even know what that's called, but the kids love that.
Well, on
so
the
why
other
not
hand,
focus on that sort of video game?
Let me just ask you, though, on the other hand, I mean, the world is as it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not a peaceful world at the moment.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering how much sheltering kids from that serves them. What's your take on that?
I think just educating them about it. I don't know that you have to completely shelter them as much as explaining what's going on and the way that, teaching them the way of peace and how to communicate in a peaceful way, and teaching them what violence does. They have to understand what the consequences of certain actions will be. It's really important. To be a peaceful person, that's one of the things that you do all the time, really, is to ask yourself, in what way is my behavior affecting everyone else? And that's what needs to happen. That's what parents need to teach, I believe.
Well, what are a few things that parents can teach their children about peace, specifically?
I think tolerance is pretty important. You know, to be a peaceful person doesn't mean you have to like everyone or like everything. But having tolerance for it, that's what's important. You don't want to persecute that which is unlike yourself. That's really the key to tolerance. So that would be really important. I think teaching kids etiquette as well is really important.
I read that in your book. I thought that was really charming because I always loved when I would watch like Johnny Carson or whatever. Some of these women, like I remember one, Letitia Baldridge, and she would come and she would teach etiquette, and I thought, how cool. So what about that with etiquette?
Etiquette is a lot more than just table manners. It's learning the art of respect, and it's respect for yourself and others. And it's really just learning how to be courteous in all situations. So, henceforth, bringing more peace to the world.
Yeah. Your husband's from Switzerland.
He is.
And clearly there are things about the Swiss school system that are way beyond what we have here.
Yeah.
What's some of that? Because we could. What would you say would be the most helpful things to be introduced to in our schools?
Well, there's numerous things. The short version is teaching kids life skills. Learning how to, for simple things like learning financial skills and relationship skills, because kids, leave high school and leave the home without really basic life skills. That would be very important. And to, make sure that children are living up to their highest potential and educate them in that way. And I believe that should be done through what I call applicable learning, which is when you actually go out into the field to learn what you're learning. You don't just learn through books and on paper, with exercises on paper. If you want to learn geometry, learn how to sail. If you want to learn animal identification and plant identification, you go into the forest, you go into the field, wherever that is. You get up close and face to face with what you're studying. That's fun for kids. Kids want to have fun while they're learning, and it really sinks in. It sinks in that way.
Yeah, wonderful. You have a World Peace report on YouTube.
I do.
How can people get to that? Where is it?
It's if you just type Zoe Weston
in the YouTube search.
Zoe Weston. Okay. It's called World Peace Report.
And you talk about the 100th monkey theory. Can you explain what the 100th monkey theory is in this regard?
The 100 monkey theory, yes. Well, let's see. It's also a long story, but it was coined by a biologist named Rupert Sheldrake, who did research that Japanese scientists had done when they were studying monkeys on these islands off of Japan. And what they noticed was that one of the monkeys dropped her potato into the river and ate it, liked how it tasted, washed all her potatoes thereafter. The rest of the monkeys in her group started to do this as well after seeing her do this. The scientists noticed that on another island, completely different island, that didn't have contact with this original island, the monkeys started to do the exact same thing shortly after that. So based on this, it's also similar to what Carl Jung calls the collective unconscious. Based on this, he claims that whatever the majority of a group or a species or a consciousness is thinking will become the dominant consciousness. And it's what I say is that if we all want world peace, if enough of us want it, we can get it, because the dominant consciousness will be focused on having peace. And that's the
100th monkey.
That's the goal, yeah. And we need what they call the critical number, the critical mass. As soon as we get to that critical number, we'll all be in that peaceful realm. It's an interesting theory. I like it. Yeah.
And you mentioned aesthetics as a tool for peaceful parenting in your section on education. How can aesthetics bring more peace to our world? How do you see that?
For me, that's simple. when you're in a clean, beautiful, uncluttered environment, you simply feel better. Plain and simple. I mean, you don't.
Do you live like that?
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And when you say clean, uncluttered, do you mean like feng shui or?
I do a little bit of that. I'm not obsessive about it, but I've read a little bit about it with the energy flow. That's very interesting. I like that. And staying organized is really important. And just having a comfortable space, something you feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I focus on that. Luckily, I have a Swiss husband.
Got some of that.
If you know about the Swiss, they're
Swiss, German,
hyper clean
yeah,
people,
yeah,
hyper organized. Yeah.